Okay, Cuyahoga County Public Works Procurement and Contracting Committee meeting for Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, will be called to order. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Mr. Schrein.
Here.
Ms. Baker. There is a quorum.
Okay, Madam Clerk, is there any public comment regarding the legislation discussed this morning?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay, and if I could have the approval minutes from the May 23rd, 2018 meeting, please?
So moved.
And a second, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the May 23rd, 2018 meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And if we could, Madam Clerk, I understand there's some other folks from Public Works who need to go through some of the legislation. So if we could, we have Mr. Myers here, so he'll do the pieces of legislation that he has
Okay.
forward on us.
Resolution number 2018-0114, authorizing an amendment to a revenue-generating lease agreement with Eaton Corporation for lease of land in a hangar facility located at 26340 Curtis Wright Parkway, Richmond Heights.
Okay, and Mr. Myers, I understand there's a proposed substitute on this too? Is this the one?
No, this is what's before you that we're presenting today.
Okay, I have this here.
Excuse me, Mr.
I'm
Chair,
sorry.
yes, this is a proposed substitute.
Okay. Does Mr. Myers have the proposed substitute?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
I'm
you do?
sorry,
Okay,
I
that's okay.
misunderstood the question.
Oh, no, that's okay. All right, and if you could, just explain this.
Sure. I'm John Myers on behalf of Department of Public Works, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is essentially a renewal of a lease that Eaton Corporation leases a hangar from Cuyahoga County out at the Cuyahoga County Airport. This current lease is expiring, and they have requested, and we have agreed with your assent to proceed in extending the lease another 5 years. At this point in time, it approximately represents, broken down into several different areas of revenue, a ground rent of $16,370 annually, and hangar rent of $106,270, and a minimum fuel flow fee of $18,000 per year. So over the 5 years, that's $712,800 revenue generating for Cuyahoga County.
Okay. Let's see, and then, so I saw in the proposed substitute, what's the change?
It was just, we had the totals, I believe that we were clarifying
A final figure?
for the, yes.
Okay,
for-
so its final figure is 712,000, I'm sorry, 712,800.
Correct,
Okay. And that's over 5 years.
correct.
Okay. Okay, any questions from my colleagues? Okay, Ms. Baker? Okay.
Just curious, this ended at the end of May, we're now into mid-June.
Yes.
So is there a reason why this is late in coming to us, and did they pay their June rent?
They've been very consistent about paying their rent. We did submit this in May, and so we were pushing the limit, as it were, based upon negotiations. All of our relationships out there have been pushed to the limits. We're in the third year of a $40 million renovation project, which has disrupted operations out there. So we're here today, and this was submitted in May, to ask for your approval. So no particular reason that, and then I believe we were on the calendar earlier and for this committee, which was extended till today.
It did get kicked to the next meeting, in fairness to them this time around. Okay.
Just my thought, is there anything in the contract that says that there's like a 6-month grace period that they have the right to renew or not renew? And I'm just asking if there is any talk in that conversation to give them, perhaps back in March of this year, a heads up that this is coming up and we need you to renew before this deadline and
There,
that kind of talk.
we were both parties were conscious of the deadline, and
Okay.
Eaton is maybe bigger than the county. Both our sides have extensive review processes with lots of eyes and lots of fingers that review all this. So what seemingly is a simple several-page amendment it consumes a significant amount of time and sign-offs and back and forth, so.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
all right, thank you, Mr. Miller.
Chairman, Mr. Myers, are the terms the same as what they've been, or are we getting more money?
No, we're getting more money, Mr. Chairman, to Councilman Miller. The original lease, this goes back to actually to 1972. We did just a mere ground lease, and then they built their own hangar, which is the normal course of relationships we have out there. The building then transferred at the end of 30 years to us, and we've been leasing both the ground and the hangar back to them now since 2003. So there was in the original lease contemplated that the rates would increase according to the consumer price index.
And so is there an annual increase over the 5 years, or
For each 5-year period, there's a CPI adjustment.
each 5-year period?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And could there be another 5 years after this one, and is it at their option or our option?
Yes, it's at their option, and that they requested that they have 2 more 5-year options at the end of this one.
And
Which is their option to take.
And will we receive the higher lease amount for the June payment, even though it's not yet in effect?
Yes,
Okay.
all the rates will reflect based upon, with your assent, what is agreed to today will start effective June 1st, the payment amounts.
Okay. And I would like to make a motion to accept the substitute version as the version that's before the committee.
Okay. We have a second and a motion to accept the substitute version before the committee of R 2018-0114. All those in favor of accepting the substitute?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, the ayes have it.
And
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, if we could ask for your indulgence on second reading, it would be appreciated.
That motion, I think I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion for a second reading suspension on this.
Second.
All those in favor, and a second, could I have a second?
Second.
Or I made the motion, you made the second, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll get there. So we have a motion and a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the ayes have it. Okay, anything further on this? Okay, great, okay, thank you. If you could, Madam Clerk, the next,
Resolution number 2018-0115, authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 170088 with Level 3 Communications for lease of parking spaces located at 4000 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland.
okay, and if we could, on this one, Mr. Myers?
Chair and the committee, this is for lease of 65 spaces at a surface parking lot located at the northeast corner of East 40th and Euclid Avenue. We've been, Public Works has been before you in the last several months and have given you some maps talking about the various parking options. This is the last piece that needs some immediate attention to keep and expand our ability to accommodate employees related to the Children and Family Services Building at Jane Edna Hunter. This is for a 5-year lease. We had a 1-year lease that was for 12 months. There was some work done to the lot. The lease actually started in June, so we're asking for the new start date to be July 1st to reference the actual start date, and to extend this for 5 years and at a rate of $2,500 per month.
Okay, and is this a rate increase, or is it the same that we've been leasing at?
It's actually a very slight decrease, Mr. Chairman.
A slight decrease?
Slight decrease.
Okay.
Last year, when the company was, they were using the space, so we had to, in order for it to be suitable for our use, they did some improvements, so we paid slightly more for the first year to accommodate some of the resurfacing and striping, and small difference.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues on this? Okay, Ms. Conwell?
Ask the chair, these are new, these weren't in the book, 14, 15, and 16. So this legislation wasn't in the last.
Excuse me, Ms. Conwell, those were from the prior
These got
council
kicked.
meeting.
Yeah.
And the committee meeting was canceled and pushed to this one.
I was like,
No, that's fine. Good
And
question.
then on the, to the chair, to John, you said 65 spaces, is that addition, does that include additional spaces than we
These are,
had last time?
well, we've had them, they were new spaces to us last year, so they're not currently additional spaces. We did come to you earlier this year where we're trying to expand some additional spaces in building out a lot on Chester, which relates to their parking needs as well. So overall, we've added capacity. This particular lot, though, was increase in capacity last year when we moved a lot of the folks from the Southeast Neighborhood Family Service Center up to Consolidated in the Jane Ed Hunter building.
How did we get a slight decrease?
There was a slight premium paid in the first year to accommodate resurfacing. Their lot had been used for storage of their vehicles, and in order to make it usable for our purposes, they invested money to resurface and restripe and to meet our needs.
So no further decreases we should expect?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Baker?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Does the 65 spaces, does that encompass the entire parking lot?
Yes, it's approximately 65 spaces.
And I guess, do we need, I don't see in this legislation that 65 spaces is indicated here. It just says parking spaces. Is there any concern that there could be any misunderstanding that it's all of the 65 spaces?
Mr. Chairman, to Councilwoman Baker, no. As part of the original license lease, we have a map indicating the number of spaces. So the actual four corners of the property we're leasing is defined.
Great.
65 is, just mathematically how many striped spaces we could fit in there.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm assuming you're going to want this on second reading
I
suspension
would
as well.
appreciate that very much.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Chairman.
I'll make that motion, make our 0115 under second reading suspension, if I could have a second. I have a second. All those in favor, the second reading suspension? The ayes have it. Opposed? Well, opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Myers.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could have the next resolution?
Resolution number 2018-0116, declaring that public convenience and welfare requires emergency repair of Bagley Road Culvert C-07.26 over Lake Abrams Ditch in the city of Middleburg Heights.
Okay, and if you could please state your name for the record?
Nicole English with Public Works. This is the first step in the process to start a project. We had received a letter late last year from Middleburg Heights requesting emergency help with this culvert that is close to Southwest Hospital.
Okay.
They were in fear of it falling down. It's a culvert that we inspect, but the city is responsible for. But we typically partner on some of these projects. Their estimate at the time was $500,000. Since then, they had actually done the plans and put it out to bid. It's now, the bid is right around $420,000. That's what we're asking for. We're splitting it 50-50 with them, which is in line with the other emergency projects that we've done in the past. They are waiting for their Army Corps permits to begin construction. They're hoping to begin construction in July if they get their Army Corps permits and we pass this through council.
Okay, and then just to clarify, so it's a 50-50 split with Middleburg Heights,
Correct.
$420,000 split.
210 each.
210
Correct.
each, okay. And then, again, and I'm still newer here. So the county will partner with a community when there's a type of emergency type situation, as in
Right.
this culvert here?
We set about $1 million a year away for emergency situations, which are types culverts like this. We did Mastic Road in Fairview Park a couple years ago when it had collapsed down into the metro parks. And then we also use that emergency money if our bridge inspectors identify something in the field that has failed that is our responsibility. So that's where the money is coming from. That's a separate pot
Okay,
that we
so
have set
there's money
aside.
that's set aside for that. Okay. Okay, any questions, Ms. Conwell?
Through the chair to Ms. English, you said $1 million set aside for culverts only?
No, just emergency projects in general.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Baker?
Just a quick question. How does a project like this become in a situation where it's an emergency? With us, always inspecting and following up and rating and all that, how do you get it to a point where this becomes an emergency?
So this particular culvert is the city's responsibility. We do the inspection on it, which is similar to lots of culverts out there. We give the report to the city. We can't make them do the work. So we, every other year are giving them a report showing that it's, in poor condition. They need to program it. They maybe thought there was a little more life into it and something had happened and it, was nearing collapse than the latest time that they went out and took an inspection. So they called us. We sent our bridge inspector out there to help assist with them, to look at it, come up with a solution to fix it, and then they went out and designed the solution and came to us. They sent a letter to the county executive asking for emergency help.
Ms. Conwell?
So an emergency, does that usually cost a little bit more versus if they plan it out?
It could if they don't have time to design it and they just have to get an emergency contractor on board. They called it emergency, but they thought they had enough time to send get a design out and bid the project like you would bid any other project. So they initially gave us $500,000 as their estimate. They bid it. They're around $420,000, so it came down from their estimate. So I would say this is in line with what we would have saw it cost if we did it, in a slower manner.
I'm just wondering if there's something that we can do to kind of enhance if we really know, especially if the emergency costs will cost us more versus them doing it.
Well, our culvert program that we participate with cities on just a regular basis, that's not an emergency, we pay 80% and they pay 20%. So that would be more encouraging for the cities to plan a project because we have a higher funding percentage in it. This, we're only gonna give them 50%
Right.
because it's come to us as an emergency and we have that smaller pot of money. So I think we encourage, based on our program, for them to act sooner, but these do come up.
Yeah, I'm just worried about if the statement that you made that we can't make the cities do it, but if we're paying 80% and they're not taking, and I know cities have their own financial
Right.
issues. I'm just wondering if that's a major problem or just something that just occurs.
Our bridge department's pretty proactive. We rank based on the reports that we get. We do rank the culverts from worst to best, and we go and approach the cities on the top. So many per year that say, "Hey, we know your culvert's near the top of our poor condition. Would you like to partner in a project?" And most of the cities say yes, they do. And so we are trying to get to them before it causes an emergency. But again, if the city doesn't have the money or that's not their priority, we can't make them do it because they own the culvert. We don't.
Thank you.
And like you said, sometimes they think they can stretch a little more out of it, and it just doesn't happen. So
Right.
that happens. Any further questions? Okay, and you mentioned a July start date. So are you looking for second reading suspension
Yeah,
on
we'd
this to
appreciate
get this
since we
moving?
pushed the committee
Especially if
meeting.
we're calling it an emergency situation, this would be the emergency situation for which we get criticized. So, okay, so I'll make a motion for second reading suspension on this. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the ayes have it. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could read the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2018-0126, authorizing the Second Amendment to lease and right of first refusal with Board of Park Commissioners of the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District for county-owned property located on the Flats East and West Banks.
Okay,
Nicole English with Public Works again. We have a figure that, I don't know if it went around yet. Okay, that's showing the exact parcel. This is the Metro Parks is continuing their trail through the area underneath the Main Avenue Bridge on the west side of the flats, the West Bank. And we had already leased them a piece for the corner where the trail goes through. This is sort of just adjacent, as shown on this figure. So it's just a little bit of a winding trail that's going through there. So it's about a 10-foot swath of property. And we own this because it's under the Main Avenue Bridge, which we had built. And we use some of that parcel for storage of items because it's covered, light poles and that kind of thing. But this area, we're okay with giving to the Metro Parks for the trail.
So you said it's about a 10-foot parcel of property?
The parcel is bigger, but the piece
Just
that
a
we're giving them.
10-foot section of it then? Okay.
Actually, 8 foot, 8 foot by
foot.
160, by 165 feet.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
so.
As long as there's no oil underneath it. No, okay. Any other questions or comments on this?
I'd like to add my name.
Okay, Ms. Conwell would like to add her name to this. Okay. Mr. Miller?
There's no consideration, is that correct?
Money,
Right.
no, this is just a nominal $1 per year lease that we're adding to it. So there's a couple different parcels that we lease to the Metro Parks, one being a corner adjacent, and then another one where their water taxi is across the river that we had leased to them under the bridge, and this is all part of the same lease. So it's just a partnership.
And can you explain about the right of first refusal?
So if we ever sell the parcel, the Metro Parks has the first right to buy it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. With that, what are you looking for as far as the timing on this particular piece? What are they doing with this?
I mean, just in light of not having the meeting a few weeks ago, if we could get it done so the Metro Parks knows that it's done for second
Okay.
reading, that would be appreciated.
Okay, I'll make that motion, second reading suspension. Okay, we have a motion and a second for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the ayes have it. Okay. Next, the resolution, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2018-0127, approving right-of-way plans as set forth in plat number M-5031 for reconstruction and widening of Sprague Road, Phase 1, from Webster Road to West 130th Street in the cities of Middleburg Heights and Strongsville.
Okay, I'm sorry, Miss English, Madam English, if you could explain this?
Okay, I do want to make one substitution on the funding source on
Okay.
this. So it's 50% issue 1, 25% County Road and Bridge, and then 12.5% Middleburg, 12.5% Strongsville on this piece of the right-of-way. So this is our first step in asking for authority to acquire right-of-way. The project on Sprague Road is broken up into 2 phases. So this phase is Webster to West 130th. The next phase will be West 130th York. We have 108 parcels with 106 owners on the parcels. We estimate the right-of-way cost to be $150,000, which will be split in the way I described. These are mostly small strip takes. We're widening the road from 2 to 3 lanes, so it's not much property. Each of those parcels are likely, I mean, so most of them will be minimal takes, $300, but you have to go through the right-of-way process to acquire them.
Okay, so what is the total cost here, you said?
So $150,000 is the cost of the right-of-way purchase. The project itself is estimated to cost $6.4 million for this part. And this has an interesting funding arrangement because the project actually started about 10 years ago, was when it first was conceived, so the agreements go back a long way, so they don't necessarily fit in our current system as far as percentages go. It's a 50-50 agreement with us and the cities. However, we did go out and get issue 1 for this part. We got 50% issue 1, so we'll split the remainder 50% with the cities.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this particular piece of legislation? Mr. Miller?
So does this result in people having smaller tree lawns?
So it will actually be their front lawn that is probably shortened a little bit. But the right-of-way is fairly wide in this section, so they're only losing, maybe 10 feet on either side, depending on where they are on the road. But yes, I mean, their lawns do get shortened.
So you're saying it's only like $300 per homeowner? It would seem to me the land would be worth more than
Yeah,
that.
it may be worth more. We'll go through the whole appraisal process, which is what we do on every project. So it will be appraised and it will be offered. But the fact that it's $150,000 for 108, there's a couple commercial properties. Some are going to be the minimum, which is $300. Some will be more. I mean, I'm just saying that the cost is normally for 108 parcels. You'd think the cost would be significantly more than $150,000, but I think because they're sliver takes, they won't be significant costs. And some could be only temporary, that we don't need permanent property on them, but you still pay for the temporary because we're using their land for a couple years to construct.
Understood.
Okay. What type of time frame are we looking at on this particular project?
We'd ask for second reading suspension just so we could get started on the project because we can't send our right-of-way agents out until we have approval to do so.
Okay, I'll make that motion for second reading suspension.
Excuse me,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair.
We
I'm
have a-
sorry.
Yep, that's
We
okay.
need an amendment to change the funding source.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to amend the legislation.
okay, and I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second to amend R 2018-0127 regarding the funding source. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so it is amended. And now if I'll make a motion for second reading suspension of the amended legislation.
Second.
And we have a second, a motion and a second for second reading suspension of the amended legislation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Okay. Madam Clerk, the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2018-0128, making an award on requisition number 42711 to DeJoya Suburban Excavating in the amount not to exceed $14,658,155.85 for reconstruction with additional turning lanes of Royalton Road from West 130th Street to York Road in the city of North Royalton.
Okay, and what's this piece regarding?
Nicole English with Public Works again. So this is an award of a construction contract for Royalton Road from West 130th to York. The engineer's estimate was $14,079,712. The lowest bid came in 4.1% over the engineer's estimate. There was 11 bid packages taken out. 3 bids were submitted. This is the best and lowest that we're presenting to you today. The project is funded with mostly federal funds, so it's 72% federal funds, 18% Issue 1, 3% County Road and Bridge, and 7% North Royalton. The reason North Royalton is higher is because they're replacing a water line, which is not Road and Bridge eligible, but that's a local cost that they wanted to add. They are pursuing Cleveland Water funds because they have the agreement with Cleveland Water, but they will get reimbursed for that directly. There's an 8% DBE goal that's set by ODOT because it's got federal funding in the project, and it is currently programmed in 2018 fiscal year, which ends on July 1. So in order to get this done, we would like second reading suspension to meet that date.
Okay, so the lowest and best bid was 4% over
Correct.
the estimate, and you had 11 submitted, is that what it was?
No, 11 took plans out, 3 bids were
Oh,
submitted.
3 bids, okay. Is there any special work involved with this project?
We bid it the first time and it came in significantly over, so we made some changes to the plans. It's a widening of 2 to 3 lanes. They're replacing water line.
Okay.
It's not just standard repaving. We've been seeing pretty low bids on resurfacings. I think the fact that they're excavating and adding the water line widening
Knocks
is
it up
what's
a little bit, okay.
pushing it up.
Any questions, Ms. Conwell?
Through the chair to Nicole, that you mentioned the different funding sources. We don't usually get 4. Is this,
Right.
okay. can you
So
explain?
the idea of the project when it was programmed years ago was it was going to be 80% federal and 10% us, 10% the city. Since then, we went and applied for Issue 1, which we got Issue $1 for, which on the original estimate was a little bit higher than 18%, but once the bids came in higher, the federal share is maxed at a certain dollar figure, so that reduced the percent on the federal dollars. And then North Royalton added the water line, which is a 100% local cost, which drove up their percentage. So that's why it's a strange funding arrangement.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
So, Mr. Chairman, Ms. English, what's the anticipated start and end of construction?
They would love to start as soon as possible. We're showing July 9th is our conservative, if they could get out there. And then the end date is June 30th, 2021. So they're doing the project in 2 phases. They will do part 1 probably this year and next summer, and then part 2 the following year. So they're hoping they won't need 21, but again, until the contractor gets out there and starts, we don't know for sure.
Long.
Yeah, that's fine.
We will not be happy. They will not think nicely of us. It's served for 3 years.
Right.
And we worked really close with the city to come up with our phasing plan so that we went all the way through the Abbey intersection so that they're not affected by both phases of construction. And, hopefully, there's a culvert in the second section, which takes a little bit longer. It's a big project to get done, the widening.
Maybe we should put June 31st. Just- all right. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, and obviously if you're looking for a July 9th start date, this is
Correct.
something we want to get moving on as well. So I'll make a motion for second reading suspension here as well. And I have a second from Mr. Schron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. English. Is there anything else, miscellaneous business from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Finance Committee, we're not Finance, Public Works Committee. It's all finance in a way. She'll adjourn. All right, thank you.